Hey now, I've got the brew stand heating up here, and today I'm going to be brewing probably my favorite beer to drink, which is my hoppy American Amber Ale. This beer is great in hot weather, in cold weather, with or without food. It's just delicious. Because of the malt bill, it's got some nice kind of crystal flavors going on there, some nice toastiness. With the hops, I go citrusy and tropically, and it just all makes for an amazing beer. So come along for the ride. Let's see how this goes. So for the malt bill, I'm starting off with a base of just North American 2-row. I'm using Rahr's 2-row for this, which is just a really great base malt. I'm then going for 7.5% of Simpson's Amber Malt, which will really give kind of a nice dry biscuity flavor to this beer. And then I'm going with 3 different crystal malts. So I'm going with 2.5% each of Crystal 15 and Crystal 80. And then going with some Crystal 40. In this case, it's actually Simpson's Crystal Light, which is essentially a C40, just a UK version, and going with 5% of that. So it should give a nice kind of range across some of those lighter crystal flavors in this beer, get that dry toastiness, and just play really nicely with the hops. Now, I'm flying solo today, so I'm going to fire up the malt mill here and then pour stuff in, and we'll take a look at it milling. Well, there we go. We are milling now. I'm using my Monster Mill MM3 Pro. Absolutely love this mill and the stand that I built for it. Just take a couple of minutes and all of this grain should be ready to go into the mash time. Oh yeah, all nicely milled up. Let's mash in. All right, so my water here is all ready for striking. And I did add a little bit of pH stabilizer to this just because of the water profile here where I live. That'll help lock that pH in where I want it. And I'm going to be mashing here at 66.7 degrees Celsius or 152 Fahrenheit. And that I find is just a really nice mash temperature for this particular beer with those crystal malts and stuff in there. Still leaving a bit of body, but helping dry out the beer just a little bit. So just giving it a nice stir here. Then we'll get the lid on and get this recirculating. So I got my lid on here, I got the lock line all nicely in place, so this will be able to be recirculating. So just kind of adjust that. You can see really thick kind of mash coming through there right now. That's all going to get sorted out and clarified as that starch all converts into awesome, delicious sugars. So came in just a couple of degrees low here, but that's no problem. That will get up where I want it here within the next minute or two. So I'm 10 minutes into the mash. It's significantly clearer. It's also kind of darkened up with those nice crystal malts, and very little particulate still coming through here by comparison to before. That's still going to get filtered into that grain bed here soon enough. All right, after 1 hour, we're looking really nice and clear. I know it doesn't show up super well on the video, but it is looking beautiful. So it's time to mash out. So now I'm just going to jump my temperature here up to 75 Celsius, or up in that 168 Fahrenheit sort of range there. And once it's up there, I'll let it sit there for about 15 minutes or so. Alright, so I've begun the process of running off here. If you want to check out the full operation video, I've got a walkthrough video on the channel there. But I just kind of swapped over the lids here, and I'm running off. I'm going to get it so that it's above that intake port on the bottom there, bottom right of that pot. Once that's above there, I'm going to add the first wort hops. So it's time for the first wort hop here. I've got 20 grams of Citra, the citrus at 13.9% alpha acidity, and this 20 grams here is going to give me roughly 19 IBU, just to kind of start off with. So we'll just get that into there, and pretty soon here I will start to fire up. And woo, flame on! Well, there we go. So I collected just about 49 liters of wort here, and we are just hitting a boil. Now this, aside from those first wort hops, these are all going to be late hops. I'm not adding anything, any more hops until we are at 15 minutes remaining in the boil. So I've got 45 minutes to get some cleaning done. Well, here we are at 15 minutes left, and what I have here is 28 grams each of that 13.9% Citra and 7.9% Amarillo. So this is where we start to get some of those more citrusy flavors of the Amarillo in here, mixing with the citrus and tropical fruit of the Citra. Okay, and with 10 minutes left here, I'm going to add 28 grams more of the Amarillo, as well as the Super Moss, just to kind of help with clarification down the road. All right, so I just flamed out. So now it's time for the last hop addition here for the Whirlpool, and that is 56 grams each of that Citra and the Amarillo. Now it's time to Whirlpool. So as usual for the Whirlpool here, I'm just going to give this a really nice stir for about 30 seconds or so, and that will really help create a nice cone in the bottom there for those hops, so they're not going to get picked up by the pickup tube. And then I'm just going to lid this and let it sit for probably 15 or 20 minutes. So I've begun the process of running off here, and we're just going through that pressure canner sterilized plate chiller into these two carboys. And once these are both filled up, I'll take them downstairs and get them hooked up to temperature controllers and some heat wraps. All right, so I have these hooked up to some temperature controllers here. Going to be getting them up towards 67 or 68 Fahrenheit. This came in at 1056, which is what I was hoping for an original gravity. So that's super awesome. So it'll be somewhere around close to that 6% range in the finished product. All right, so I'm ready to pitch yeast. Just before that, I agitated each of these carboys for about a minute each, hence some of that foam in there. And now I've got my starter here. So this is a 3.6 liter starter that I built up from a smack pack of Denny's favorite, I only used 1450. I'm going to very scientifically split it up. Let's see here. Now I do all of the starter stuff by weight, but of course now in the moment with this, I just have to use these demarcation lines to try to get roughly half the volume in there. Oh, that should be good. Pop this over. Add the rest and we'll see how close we got. Yeah, pretty good. Awesome. All right, so now I'm just going to pop these caps back on here. A little star sound earlier. We got the carboy hoods, the blow-off tubes, and everything all set up. All right, so there we go. Carboy hoods on, temperature probes inserted, heat wraps on. This one here just overshot the temperature by a degree, I noticed, but that's not going to be a problem. And yeast is pitched, everything's happy here. So we will check on these once they start to actively ferment. So about 7 hours in, we've got the first signs of some fermentation going on here. There's a little bubbling away. Good stuff. So we're a day in, and we've definitely hit some nice high krausen on these carboys. That one got pretty close there. Fantastic though. So forced attenuation test on this amber ale here is coming in at 1014. So I'm pretty excited to see what the actual batch comes in at. These amber carboys here finished off at 1014, finishing gravity, which is fantastic. I killed the heat on them and just let a bunch of that yeast flock out for a few days. So now it's time to pressure transfer into some sanitized kegs and then gelatin fine and then transfer and carbonate. So after all the finishing touches here, this amber ale is ready to taste. It's on tap, so let's give it a pour. Oh yeah, there we are. So, moment of truth. In smelling it here, in the aroma, you're getting these tropical and citrusy hop characteristics, in addition to just a little bit of light toast and some of those caramel and toffee notes coming out of those crystal malts. And this is why this is my favorite go-to beer. It's got all of those same characteristics that come through in the aroma, and everything's really nicely in balance. I love to use those Citra and Amarillo hops. Sometimes I'll sub out Cascade or Falconer's Flight if I'm out of Amarillo at that point. But I think the Citra is fairly integral to this particular recipe. But it's just beautiful. And as I've said, it's amazing with food or by itself. Any type of weather, it's fantastic because it's got a ton of character, and yet it's still refreshing enough to drink any time of year. So yeah, hopefully you give it a whirl, and if you do, let me know how it turns out. And until next time, keep Road 11.